90-58 is the final. Michigan pretty much dominates Detroit Mercy straight off the get-go from the tip. Josh, I think it was a 16-4 run to open the game, a 31-6 run to end the first half. They were up like 50-17, something like that. It was just pretty much a dismantling of the utmost. Anything you could see in a basketball game is a total domination today against Detroit.
Yeah, I mean, you pretty much summed it up right there. I mean, there's really nothing that you can add from an analytical standpoint. I mean, Michigan's kind of struggled to find its shot. I mean, both teams really struggled to find its shot early in the game. U of D was mainly relying on their free throws to score, which kind of speaks a lot to Michigan's defense today. 15 first half turnovers, which that's quite a bit. I mean, it was most of it was on U of D kind of making these mental errors, but a lot of it too was Michigan kind of applying that pressure. So, yeah, I mean, overall, this was a game that Michigan should have walked away with, and including the fact that they didn't have Mo Wagner and potentially Duncan Robinson and Charles Matthews were kind of iffy too. They did what they had to do.
And Detroit only had 5 first half field goals, so a 3-to-1 turnover to field goal ratio. You don't see that much ever at all.
No.
You mentioned, let's talk about Charles. He just got in about an hour and a half before tip-off. Beeline mentioned that in the post game. He had a game-high 20 points, came out, played a little inspired basketball, it looked like. Granted, it was Detroit, it was a lesser competition, but you have to like what you saw from him again after those 2 big games against UCLA and Texas. He's keeping that positive momentum rolling.
Charles Matthews had to attend his grandmother's funeral in Chicago, so he was flown out and then arrived shortly before game starts. So, it would have been excusable if he had kind of an off game, just because it's such a quick turnaround. But that really wasn't the case. A lot of guys really didn't have off games. I mean, as you could tell by the scoreboard. But a guy that if you could single out and say, okay, he might struggle today, would be a Charles Matthews, but that absolutely wasn't the case today.
You got to talk. I know Mo wasn't in, and Beeline says that it was a sort of game time decision. Even though we heard, we got great seats today. We heard Mo come up and talk to Terry Mills and said, I wanted to play, but it just wasn't a possibility. Right. Beeline wasn't going to let that happen. We'll see if he plays against Alabama A&M. Neither here nor there. Even if he doesn't, you had to like what you saw out of the bigs today. John Teskey came in, got his first career start at Michigan. He had a double-double, 15 points, 10 rebounds. And then even Austin Davis came in, gave some minutes, positive minutes, even though he fouled out. You had to like what you saw out of the bigs today.
Yeah. I think today was a big opportunity for a guy like Austin Davis, who's kind of got lost in the rotational shuffle here a little bit. But yeah, I mean, you got to like what both of them gave. I think John Teskey's been really solid for Michigan these past couple weeks, and is only getting better. He's going to be a great force off the bench for Michigan, and in case Mo Wagner like today can't play, he's a great substitute. So yeah, I mean, again, it's one of those things where it's like you can't ask for much more from these guys from today. But for a guy like Austin Davis who's trying to break the rotation and try to find minutes, this was a big opportunity for him today.
Michigan has a winless Alabama A&M coming up on Thursday. I believe they play Jacksonville after that. So you're looking at strong possibility of going 12-3 and heading into their second stint of Big Ten play. I know they're 1-1 in conference play, but right now you sort of have to like how this team sort of turned it around, 3 quality wins as they sort of hedge out the final kinks before they hit the real stretch run of Big Ten play.
Yeah. I mean, those looking into the season, those games against UCLA and Texas were kind of like real daunting, looming games. And you walk away from that 2-0. I mean, that's best case scenario. If you're talking about schedules and where this team is, I mean, you got to think they're ahead of schedule, especially on the defensive side. I mean, last year this is all we talked about was Michigan struggling on defense early in the season. But really, outside of the second half collapse against Ohio State, the defense has been rock solid. Maybe credit Luke Yaklich to kind of breathe some new air into it. But I mean, this is a night and day difference for this team defensively.
Well.